Yo, still bills, what's the deal, man? Nigga got off work early. I'm finna go home, crank my air fryer and cook me some wings and some rice, man. Yeah, gonna fry them joints, man, like that shit. Chicken does a body good, literally, man. It doesn't sit as heavy on your stomach, man. So I'm gonna go straight on the chicken diet, chicken and rice for about a week. I'm gonna try and bang that for a week. But peak fucking game, man. We got to get into this situation with Jake Paul and Anderson Silva, man. First off, shout out Anderson Silva, man, for him to cross over to boxing in his 40s after spending his entire career as a mixed martial artist, man, and him acquiring the skill set that he was able to acquire. That shit is a phenomenal thing to have done, to have achieved, man. He beat Chavez Jr., and I honestly thought that would be enough for him to beat a Jake Paul. I honestly thought that it would be. Now, I haven't watched the fight, but I saw that, everybody is talking about that. Everybody keeps, that his knockdown over Silva in the 8th round went viral. One thing I will say about Jake Paul is, I've said it before, I don't think he's not gonna be a champion, dog. Like, it's just not gonna happen. And I don't even fully have an understanding on the Chavez Jr. and Anderson Silva fight. I don't know what happened, what transpired with that. I don't know. Like, I don't know, was that Chavez at his best? None of it does, Silva was able to get the victory over him. So this isn't a slight at him, man, but in a lot of situations, we have to be able to unpack the fight in its totality to have a better understanding of it. So I can't speak definitively as to what happened between the two in that fight, but all I do know is he won that fight. He won that fight, and that's a good look for him. And, it's a good look for Jake Paul to beat him, man, because as I've said it before, Jake Paul and his brother can box. It's as simple as that, man. Like, once you acquire technique and you start putting that technique in motion, even if it's just sparring, you're upping your skill set drastically. So your average nigga is not gonna be able to deal with Jake Paul and Logan Paul in the streets. They're just not. They're not. They can fight. They're boxers. They're not. The reason why they get knocked as boxers is because they're trying to be projected as these top dogs in the sport, and they're not that. They'll never in life be that. Ever. They will never in life be that. Ever. But they can box. They can come to the gym and give you good work. I think they could be good amateurs as well. But for what Jake Paul is allegedly trying to strive for, that's not going to happen. Floyd said it best, man. Like, the minute he fights a real boxer, he's going to get fucked up. And he keeps calling out Canelo. Canelo will fuck Jake Paul up. And he would. He's supposed to. Why? Because Canelo was pound for pound #1 in the world, period. Of course he's going to beat Jake Paul. Of course. And he's transcending weight divisions at 5'8", my height, if he's even that. So I'm just saying, man, the dude can box. Him and his brother can box. They just get knocked because as being professional fighters, which that aggravates me as well, because I don't like calling them pro basketball players. Do not play high school basketball players. Now, there's variations in that as well, because what's going on like in the YouTube era, the NBA isn't the only outlet for basketball, man. This ball is life thing is taking off, and out of that ball is like the and one. Everything, all this shit started with and one. And one, them cats was getting paid to travel the world and play ball. Their passion. And from and one, you venture out, you get a multitude. You get Devontae Frigga, you get your professors, you get your Nick Briz or whatever. Who else is out here making moves, man? T-Jazz. It's a multitude of players. Slim. It's a multitude of players that's playing basketball for a paycheck that aren't even playing overseas in Euro leagues or the NBA. So there's variations in basketball, whatever, man. But when you are a high school kid, you know, more than likely you're not going to be able to compete with them cats who have Euro League experience. But they could still be considered pro ball players because they're playing for a paycheck. Now, is Jake Paul a professional boxer? You can say that he is. He's getting paid to fight. Motherfuckers is coming to watch. They're buying his pay-per-views. I know some people who bought, especially the first one. I don't think I've ever watched a Jake Paul fight, but all other motherfuckers have. So is he a pro? You can say that he is. But when we think pro boxing, we think of Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Crawford, Devin Haney, Vasily Lomachenko, Usyk, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Artur Beterbiev. Those are the type of names that we associate with pro, what it means to be a pro fighter. We don't do that with Jake Paul. He's a pro in his own right, but when we say pro, he's a cruiserweight. Jake Paul ain't getting in there with no J.O. Bataya. Jake Paul ain't getting in there with no goddamn Lawrence Okolie and goddamn Dorticos and all of these cats and Maris Breedis. That will not happen. Andrew Tabiti, it won't happen. So he's a pro in his own right, but I think we gotta further unpack it more. And I would be them dudes like, man, I ain't hearing that shit. He ain't pro. When you really look at it, he is a pro. He's just not the pro that we're accustomed to thinking that he is. So he's not no motherfucker that's gonna ever be implemented into the pound for pound rankings or even considered pound for pound ranking or even considered a prospect. Because what it is that he's doing, that it's all novel. It's novelty acts, man. I won't take away his victory for the Anderson Silva win. I won't do that because Anderson Silva can box. But even with Anderson Silva, Anderson Silva wasn't, at this point, he wouldn't have been no top 30 contender fighter in any particular division that he would have been fighting in. No. But he can still box. And Jake Paul and Logan Paul can box as well. So that when we hear pro, that's what we're accustomed to. That's the when we think pro, the quintessential definition of pro is Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. Those are pros, not Jake Paul. And that's why we always denigrated people for saying that he's a pro fighter. So he's a pro, but just not. He's a pro that's not going to fight other pros, if that makes sense. But like I said, your average dude is not going to test them dudes in the street. Head up, they will get their ass beat. And that's just what it is. I remember Eddie Hearn telling Jake Paul, you are not about to be a champion, dog. It is not going to happen. And he's right, because it's not going to happen. In the division that he's fighting in, it is not going to happen. Everybody talk greasy about Lunga Makabu will beat the shit out of a Jake Paul. He's a champion, he's a cruiserweight champion. Let alone the Lawrence Okolie, a dude who's looking to be moving up to heavyweight. Like, no, it's not happening. It won't happen. Now, with all that being said, we got to get into this. This conspiracy theory that's going around. Man, listen, man. I'm gonna need people to. I had this same conversation with a dude that I used to work with, man, when he was just swearing up and down that Tyron Woodley took a dive, and he intentionally. I wasn't even gonna bring the fight up because I don't watch Jake Paul, but he intentionally brung because he knows I train. He intentionally brung this to me like you watch that shit. I'm like, I ain't watching. I'm just mad at what happened, man. Like, how that nigga gonna take a dive like that? And I'm like, dude, one thing y'all are gonna have, it's easy for somebody who's a fan of the sport but doesn't go through certain fires to understand what it means to be a fighter. So it's easy for a motherfucker who's just a fan of in a spectator sport to say, oh man, he took a dive, he took a dive, he took a dive, he took a dive, man. He ain't want to win that fight. The bag was more important. And it's just like, dude, no. Their reputation is on the line. Not even just to the fans that they may have amassed, but to themselves, man. Like, people struggle with loss. Look at what happened with Ronda Rousey when she lost. When she got her ass beat, look at the mental meltdown that she had when she lost. She's not even fighting no more. She's in WWF. Well, she was. I don't think she's there no more. When you lose, a lot of people cannot handle that type of embarrassment. They cannot handle being a meme all over social media. And now that we have, these YouTube platforms, it gives us an outlet to talk about it and break it down. Give a really good analytical response as to what happened when they fought, as to why they lost. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Tyron Woodley, in their first meetup with Jake Paul, told him, "You're not one of us, dog. You're not no fighter. You're not one of us. You're not one of us, bro. That I'm really getting tired of motherfuckers, trying to equate you, or you trying to equate yourself and your goofy ass fans trying to equate you to being a fighter. You're not one of us." All that shit he talked in that face off, I agree with most definitely. Even though I think he is a fighter, I just don't think he's a fighter of that ilk. What he said was real. You're not one of us, bro. And that hurt, that's like, it's offensive. Like, bro, you gotta go sit at the kiddie table. And when someone is feeling that convicted in their, on their stance, there is no way in hell they would take a dive. Because that is a career knockout. That's a career knockout highlight right there. What he did to Tyron Woodley. That will be like, for years to come, after Tyron Woodley takes his last breath 100, 200 years from now, that fight is going to be reminiscent on. It's a certain competitive fervor that fighters have in them, you know what I'm saying? They're not, that shit is like, nah, my integrity is on the line, dog. Like, I can't allow, you were going to earn this knockout if you knock me out. And he earned it. And as I was explaining it to my dude, I was like, he flashed a body shot and came over the top with the right hand. That takes IQ. That takes dexterity. That takes commitment to throwing the shot, because a lot of people they get apprehensive. They're apprehensive in that ring. When them fists start coming back at you, you're worried about the counter. Change levels to flash the body shot, come over the top with the right hand, that put him to sleep. And he's way bigger than Tyron Woodley. So I'm like, a lot of you dudes just do not need to be talking about boxing. And so now I'm on YouTube, not YouTube, but Facebook, and the video of him knocking down Anderson Silva is going viral on it. Oh man, he took a dive. And I'm like, y'all are some of the most vague, surface level motherfuckers I've ever heard of in my life, man. I said it once, I say it again. You do, in a lot of situations, need to become a critical thinker and break down fights in a lot, you have to do that a lot of times. You have to break down these fights. Not even fights. Just even on a social scale, you have to step outside of the line of thinking what a motherfucker is telling you on TV doesn't necessarily make it right. Just mass media is the biggest propagandist tool they have in society that we have today. So if they can spin some bullshit narrative on there, that's going to resonate in the minds of the masses, and that's what they're going to run with. So it takes somebody who's really comfortable with the idea of critical thinking to step outside of that fray and think for themselves and formulate their own ideologies and their opinions, and not be scared to challenge, what motherfuckers are saying that's following the mass media. So I encourage critical thinking. I encourage I encourage conspiracy theorists. I encourage it, as long as it stays within the realm of possibility. And Anderson Silva taking a dive, even though he didn't get knocked out, taking a dive, intentionally hitting the canvas, to, you know, show Jake Paul as a more solid fighter is just the goofiest shit in the world. And they're saying because he didn't get hit hard, by their estimations, that he took a dive. And once again, if you haven't trained and you don't know how to properly throw a punch, and you don't understand turning your hips and axling on your toe get you as much power in short shot bursts than somebody who's opening up from all the way out here looking to land a shot, because they think the momentum of that shot landing by the time this shot meets the target, if you opening up all the way out here, that's damn near going to decapitate you. You don't need that shit when you become trained in the sport. And Jake Paul is good enough in the sport, and he's sizable. And the dude is damn near like 200 pounds. He's a big dude. He's like 6'1". He's a big dude. About 190, 200 pounds. He's a big dude who knows how to throw punches, who knows how to set up punches clearly, who has proper technique on punches. So a shot, a glancing shot to some is a different ball game to a motherfucker who's actually feeling the impact of the shot. And in Anderson Silva's case, it was the impact of the shot. And if I'm not mistaken, his nose was bleeding and everything. That man was taking punishment in there. I encourage conspiracy theorists, man, but I also encourage being able to unpack shit within a realm of reality, and stop just because a motherfucker, says it's a conspiracy theory. Be that dude to say, nah, not this time around, bro. Not this time around. And get the fuck over it. God damn. I'm not a fan of the Paul brothers. I feel like they're boxing is already, it's enough circus acts in the sport with the professional boxers who are ranked within their respective divisions. We don't need it for somebody who has no intention on becoming a world champion or is incapable of becoming a world champion. So I'm not a fan of them dudes. I'm not a fan of them at all. I don't dig them. I don't dig them. I don't think they belong in the ring like that, making money off of it. I won't even begin to lie about that. I won't. But I'm also about to sit here and tell you that Anderson Silva took a dive to further slight to further slight him. I won't do that. That's dishonest. So Jake Paul earned a knockout against Tyron Woodley, and he earned a knockdown with Anderson Silva. And it is what it is, man. Learn when to be conspiracy theorists and learn when to just use your eyes. Deuces.